I just wanted to kind of gently remind you guys that I'm not here to hold your hand. I'm not here to make you do anything. For most of you, I am a little further along on the same path that you guys are trying to be on. So if I can share my experiences with you and help you guys along, I hope that will be useful and of benefit for you. So that's my primary thing, is I just kind of want to share what worked for me and also maybe help you not make the same mistakes that I made along the way. I'm also here to answer questions. If you guys have questions, please don't hesitate to ask them. However, there's an asterisk on that, so wait for the next part. What I would like to see is I want you guys to all be independent, but at the same time, understand and really value community, because that's where we really grow. Humans are social beings. We grow and we thrive when we're in community. Like, no one ever grows when they're an island by themselves, right? I steal from you guys all the time. And that being said, community is about sharing. So there are a lot of folks who just sort of consume, they're part of the group and they kind of lurk and they don't really contribute. But I like I said in yesterday's rant, every single person that's part of this group has something to offer. And so I want you guys to really own that truth and start sharing more. Even if it's just a victory that you see in the gym. Like, if you don't want to ask questions, that's fine. But in some way, some form, please contribute something so that we can all benefit from that. Does that sound reasonable? Now here's where the asterisk comes in from before, where I said, I want you to ask questions. Here's the thing. If you don't know the answer to something, there's this really cool thing called Google, and it usually has the answers to most of your questions. And then after Google, if I don't find what I'm looking for from Google, I ask YouTube. And YouTube will usually have a really cool video. And if you don't find what you're looking for, try harder. Like, I grew up in a generation where we had these stupid things called like card catalogs and microfiche, and you literally had to physically look at this thing to find a book. Like, there are these cool things where people, like, there's words in them and stuff, and there's knowledge. You know, like, I had an intern once, and he's like, oh, I asked him to do something, and 3 weeks later, I'm like, hey, have you done it yet? He's like, no, I don't know how. And I'm like, bro, your phone has this thing called Google. Ask the Google machine, right? Like, we all have the Google machine. Now, I want you guys to learn how to learn is really the big thing. I want you guys to start researching and finding things on your own, okay? Now, after that, after you've put in a little bit of effort, if you still don't understand or you need clarification on something, then ask, because I would love to help with that stuff. I will remind you of the basics, but I would rather spend more time expanding on the basics rather than reteaching them to you. There's a lot of resources out there, so use them. I will gently redirect you to the resources if it's clear that you have not taken the time to look at them. When I was a software engineer, there was this phrase, it was RTFM, read the fucking manual. And like if you didn't know how to do something, it's like, RTFM, bro, it's in the manual. So I'll say that to you, but in a more kind way. And it's not that I'm trying to be an a-hole, it's just that I can give you fish or I could teach you how to fish, which is more valuable. Right? And then I can show you the little nuances and stuff that, like, okay, now that we both know how to fish, now let me show you some little extra tricks that are really, really cool and will make you even better. That's really what I'm after. If the goal is mastery, you need to take responsibility of your own growth. You have to. For instance, I'm not going to teach you a muscle up if you can't do a strict pull up. And you've all been given the resources and tools to get the pull up. It just requires a little bit of patience and diligence. The final thing that I want to really, really emphasize here is something that is probably going to end up being its own topic sometime this year. And it's the idea that failing is the best way to learn. Because it is. Like, failing the level 1 seminar internship my first time was literally the best thing that ever happened to me as a coach. You guys all know that story? Some of you have heard that story before. Like, you're supposed to, you guys remember from your level 1 seminar, they take you through the air squat, the front squat, and overhead squat, right? And it takes about 55 minutes to an hour. I taught the air squat, the front squat, and the overhead squat in 21 minutes. And then I look over at Todd Widman, I go, is there anything you would like to add? And he's like, yeah. And he jumps in and starts working on all this nuanced stuff. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't know what I didn't know. And that failure was super, super embarrassing, but it was actually the best thing that ever happened to me because it forced me to surround myself with really awesome people. So after failing out my internship, that's when I started hanging out with Cody Bergner. And that's when I started hanging out with Teresa Larson, who worked for Kelly Starrett. I got my USAW. I started hanging out with all kinds of really, really smart people, and that's how I got where I am today. So for those of you guys who are wanting to do extraordinary things, you need to go out of your way to try to just be in the bubble with people who are doing really awesome things. So you kind of have to put yourself out there. Being surrounded by people who are smarter than you is how you get better. The fact that you guys are all here tells me that you want to be better and you want to grow. But now I'm encouraging you to step it up a notch. What I'm hoping is that everyone would just kind of get a fire lit under their ass and start really restudying. And then our conversations here would be a lot more in depth. Does that make sense? And I mentioned this when you go to your level 2. If you go to your level 2 and not have a plan to teach the movements, then you just paid $1,000 for someone to tell you, hey, you don't have a plan to teach the squat. That was a waste of $1,000. Versus if you come in with a plan, like, okay, cool, that was a great execution of the plan. Now let's look at these really nuancy things so we can make it even better, right? So same thing with our meetings every week. If you guys come in with super, super basic questions because you didn't look up the information in the manual, which is really easily accessible, then we're gonna spend time doing that stuff. Whereas if you guys all get really hungry and start looking at advanced things and nuance, then we can talk about really nerdy things and be even more awesomer. Does that sound reasonable? Does that sound fun and exciting? I hope so. That's kind of where I'm at. That's the end of my rant, basically. I want you guys to be okay with failing. Failing is the best way to learn. Be really hungry and steal knowledge. I'm not here to hold your hand. I'm here really to smack you in the butt and say, go faster. That's kind of what I'm here for. Okay? In a really nice way. All right, so let's move on to correct and false, okay? So I'm gonna go through this quick spiel, and then what I'm hoping to do is have time to actually look at your homework, and let's discuss it. Sound good?